Oh, wait. I think there is some problem that is showing all this overlay. Oui. Hello. Okay, I'm back. So, can everybody hear me okay? I think it's working fine. Okay. I think we can start. Well, there is at least one person here. I'll end stream and then I will join the stream again. No, I think it's better if I keep it. Okay, so hello to everybody who is watching right now and who will watch it later, because this will be recorded and it will be posted on the channel. And not only that, I will also have some short clips posted from the stream as well, so hopefully you will not be missing anything. First things first, a little bit of introduction. So I have been taking some time off for the summer. I have been away traveling. I am currently in Canada for about 2 months now, and it has been absolutely fun. Absolutely fun. And very, very, you can say, enlightening, because I mean, Canada is just such a very different and amazing place. If you are from a non-Western culture, then Canada is just it's such a hub of immigrants and diversity that we'll talk about that more. So I have been away for like 2 months now, and I wanted to share my first impressions of Canada, what I found, what were the cultural shocks, what did I like, things that are probably I didn't like as well. But this will be more like a something that will be this will be more like something that I will share casually and offhand. So I don't really have a script prepared. I will just share it based on the points that I have noted down and that I will share as well. In addition, if there are any questions, then please, if you're watching, you can just write them down below, and I will answer them in the end. Otherwise, I will just keep talking about my thoughts and impressions here in Canada. So I am currently in Toronto. It's the Greater Toronto area, which has probably the most dense population of Canada in like the whole of the country. And it's mainly called the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, and has like a bunch of different smaller cities that are joined together in this area. I mean, Toronto is like about an hour's train ride away from here. And I live in another, currently I'm staying in another city which is called Etobicoke. But there are many other cities like that in this Greater Toronto area. So starting with the time that I first came to Canada and that I first landed here, the first shocking thing, or the first impression that I got, was that you see younger people, I would say young adults, everywhere in customer-facing roles. Not just in customer-facing roles that are in retail, for example. Like, for example, if you go to a coffee shop or if you go to a cafe or a restaurant, you obviously see them. I mean, it's almost like they're 99%, almost like 100% of them are just these young people who are mostly students. But the surprising thing for me was that when I landed at the airport and then when I entered, when I went through the immigration checks and everything, then I saw that they were actually quite young people. Like I think they were like the student age, young adults who were doing most of the work there, the official work. And it's, I think, one of the surprising things that you actually see when you come from such a country, which is country like Estonia, which is like very homogeneous, that you actually come to a country like Canada and you see that there are people in the official positions, which are like government positions and customer facing positions, which are, yeah, non native, like I wouldn't say ethnic Canadians. So I think that was something, the first thing that was very, very surprising to me, and the fact that they were all quite young. And it's something that I have never seen in any European airport, even in the like the airports in, for example, in Pakistan, also, you hardly see any young people working there. So this was something that was very um, interesting and surprising to me, how much of a population of younger immigrants that Canada has, and how much are actually part of the workforce. So that was certainly something very interesting that I found when I first came to the airport. So the second thing that I want to talk a little bit about is the second thing that I want to actually talk about is that it's very, 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 very crowded. Now, by crowded, I mean that it's not like it is very densely populated. I mean, it is, as I said, it is one of the most densely populated areas, probably in North America. But the effect that it has on your daily life is just really, really much. Like, it's too much of an effect on your daily life. For example, what does it mean? Like, the natural effect of that is that, of course, the traffic, and the traffic in the specifically this greater Toronto area, the GTA, is notoriously bad. I mean, it's normal for a person to stay in daily in traffic jams for like 40 minutes if you're commuting by car. And that is something that I could never ever get used to it, because being in Europe, where everything is smaller, it's much closer, you hardly ever go for like more than, like, even when you're commuting, anything more than half an hour for me is just too much. Like, my threshold is 15 to 20 minutes if I need to go somewhere, and if it's more than that, then it's just then I have to really think about it. But here in Canada, and I think North America in general as well, driving is like something very, very normal. Driving 4 hours, 5 hours is just considered normal. You can go to a day trip, 4 hours someplace, and then 4 hours back. And I actually did that when I was here. And it's doable because they have such a very, such a big highway network as well. But I think the worst part of that was the traffic. I mean, traffic is notoriously bad. I was actually watching one documentary. I was actually watching one YouTube video, and I think Tom Cruise was here filming for something, and then he even mentioned that, what's up with the Toronto traffic. There was this one singer who couldn't actually reach to the concert arena in time, and then he actually had to walk, get out of his car and then walk because the traffic jam was so bad. I have actually sat in a traffic jam in downtown Toronto for like 40 minutes, and it moved maybe 20 meters. It's so bad. It's just I think there are a number of reasons for that that people have said as well. I mean, Canada has had a massive influx of people. The infrastructure is not able to withstand that, and then also There are quite a lot of new projects ongoing, and that has resulted in this congestion. But regardless of that, it's very, very surprising for me to see the traffic uh, in Canada. It's just plain, yeah, it is just plain surprising, and it's pretty crazy. Another effect of that crowdedness and that density of people is that you don't go to a place and expect to be served right away. Like, imagine, like, what the most shocking things for me was, and one of the most surprising things for me was that when you go to the national parks for hiking or for doing anything like within in nature, because Canada has some really beautiful national parks and provincial parks as well, and you actually have to book and pay for a parking space, and you can be fined if you don't book for a parking space. Now, this is something that is virtually that cannot be understood at all, particularly if you think of Europe or specifically Estonia, because to imagine that you're actually going to nature and you're actually going to a park, you're actually going for hiking, and you're actually going to, like, be with yourself and be one with nature, and you actually have to book for a parking lot because there are so many people all the way coming from everywhere, then it just boggles my mind. I think the European mind cannot comprehend that. It's just plain, yeah, it's just plain, you can't understand that at all. So that is like the thing, and I understand that as well, because there are so many people who actually want to, like on the weekends or on the national holidays, everybody wants to go to these parks, everyone wants to go hiking. I mean, it's like a ritual for Canadians, because everybody says that Estonians love nature, and I think Estonians love nature, but I think they probably love their solitude more than nature. And because Canadians love nature too. And you can actually see that, despite the fact that even if you have like a one-day holiday, people just come here and they do camping. They arrive here on any national park on like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday they are back. And it's just plain normal part of your natural, your Canadian life. So that was very, very surprising. And then I think another effect of that is that queues in restaurants. I mean, we'll talk about the restaurants and food more later, but you can actually go to a restaurant and wait outside in a queue for more than 40 minutes. There is one place in where I live, and it's an ice cream place. It's one of the best ice creams that I've ever had. It's called Tom's Dairy Freeze, and there has never been. I think I probably went there a dozen times by the time I'm here, because I love it. It's just so good. It's so good, and there have been rarely, I think probably 2 times, when I went there and there was no queue. There were still people eating ice cream, but there was no queue. And that was right when the shop was open at 12 o'clock. And I think it closes at like 9 p.m. So it's sitting in queues, waiting to be seated, or going to a restaurant, or queues anywhere. This is just a very, very natural, normal part of life here in Canada. Like you're probably spending quite a lot of your life, if you live here in Canada, just waiting in queues or in traffic jams. So that is, I think, the price that you have to pay if you want to live in such a hub and such a metropolitan city. But I mean, there the things that you see here, the things that you experience here, um, is just you can't have it anywhere else. Like for example, um, the diversity here. It's. I mean, you do see Canadians as well. Somebody said here that you don't find any native Canadians. There are Canadians. I actually met quite a few of them, and who have lived here for quite a long time. And it's just plain amazing that you can find a community of people and their own network here that you might have never heard. Because, like, I can speak from the perspective of Pakistan, for example. Um, in Europe, I mean, it's mostly even in the places where we have a lot of Pakistani population, it's considered more like Pakistani Indians, and South Asian food is like mixed. But here in Canada, it's like very, you have very specifically Pakistani diaspora. You have very specifically Pakistani food, Pakistani restaurants, Pakistani cafes, Pakistani people, and so I can speak to the experience of that, of what I saw. But I do know that if you are Turkish, that if you are Serbian or Bosnian, or if you are Korean, or if you are Chinese, you have your whole networks of people that you are together with. You are actually coming to not just Canada. I mean, you're coming to Canada itself, but you are coming to a mini country um, of yours here. And that is why I think Canada is so popular among immigrants. I think rightly so. I think there is no better place for any immigrant other than Canada. And it's not just me. Like people, like people often say that, okay, people from poor countries like Pakistan or India or Bangladesh, they want to move to Western countries and, take all the resources. Canada has a very huge population of Europeans as well. Like Estonian population. There's a huge population of Estonians in Toronto as well. So yeah, it's not just place for somebody, but people in the Eastern culture. And I think one of the best things about this being this diversity and having like this mini country of yours here is the fact that you can experience almost everything that you could back home. I mean, if you're thinking about Pakistan, then I can't think of any food or anything that I could not have had here and it was not good. Like you can have food or you can have like these kind of ingredients or like things anywhere in the world, like majority of the world where there is a sizable population of Pakistan, somebody will make something and like you can make a biryani or you can make a pulao or you can make like these dishes like halwa puri and everything. But for them to be good as home, it's an extremely rare thing. And in Canada, you can find that. In Canada, you can actually find food that is better than home, like that actually tastes better than home. I mean, there are a number of reasons for that, probably because, I mean, the cooks can be really experienced. It can also be that the ingredients and the everything that they use is much more fresh, organic, reliable, and that results in a much better taste. But to have that is just plain amazing. I think it's one of the biggest shocks that I've had, that you can wake up, you can have a Pakistani nashta of paratha, anda, chai, you can have halwa puri, you can have anything that you can think of. You can have siri pie, which is just, yeah, these are just names of the Pakistani food. And then you can have them as good as you would have in Pakistan. The second thing is that it's the competition here because there are so many people here and there are so many restaurants here. The competition here is so fierce that just because you open a food restaurant here and specific like ethnic food doesn't mean that it will work. Because in, for example, in Estonia, there is hardly any. I mean, there are very few restaurants that cater to like ethnic food, like for example, specifically Pakistani Indian food. And I can tell you, I can give you a very good business advice that if you have any interest in food and you want to have a good running business, then you can just open a food restaurant here in Tallinn that caters to the ethnic desi Pakistani and Indian food, because there is a higher demand and there is not enough supply. But here in Canada, because there is such a higher demand and there's such a higher supply, that the competition has gone really, really fierce. And that means that they have to really, they actually have to really make sure that their quality is amazing. One of the things that resulted in me talking to my friends and family, like the reaction that I gave them was that the real Pakistan is here. Like, this is what Pakistan was supposed to be. Like, you are free to practice your religion, you are free to practice your freedom of speech, you have your own space, you have your own family, you have freedom of you have secure laws that protect you, that protect your rights, that protect your property. And this is something that Pakistan was meant to be. And one of the things that, like I told them, like my friends and family here, this is the real Pakistan. Like, this is what Pakistan should have been. And I can't imagine, I can't blame any other people who are coming all the way from Pakistan to here in search of a better life, why they're coming to Canada. Because I can't blame them, because this place is so welcoming, and you have such a huge support network here that you don't really feel that you left your own country, except for all the worst parts and coming to all the best parts. But there are some like problems here as well, and quite huge problems that I will mention that as well. So I think it's very interesting to see the communities here, whether they are from Middle East, whether they are from South Asia, from Pakistan or India or Bangladesh or Sri Lanka, or from European countries, because there's just a huge population of here. And one of the things that I always say is that in all my experience, I don't think there is any other place in the Western world that has this kind of density of ethnic experiences. Like, I can talk specifically from the perspective of Pakistan, is that nowhere else in the world, I mean, outside of Pakistan, you can have such a Pakistani experience in food and culture and and freedom of speech and religion anywhere else in the world except for this. This is truly a very, very unique place if you can afford it. And that brings me to the next point that was shocking for me, and that was something really surprising as well, because I know that cost of living is crazy. I mean, it's crazy. It's getting crazy everywhere in the world, specifically even in Estonia. It is quite bad. I mean, Estonia, recently there was a report by one of the, I think, Estonian ministers or advisors, who said that Estonia will soon become one of the top 5 most expensive countries in Europe, which is unimaginable considering how low is Estonia in the median income level. it's just unimaginable. But I've been saying that for like 5 years now, and people have just started to accept that Estonia is actually a very, 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 very expensive country when it comes to your income. But here in Canada, I think the cost of living is just absurd now. Like, you the the accommodation cost and the cost of actually living here in accommodation has skyrocketed. I think I was reading one statistic that the rents and the property increase, and the prices have increased more than 40% in the last 5 years. And the worst hit are the people who are actually coming here to make a new life, and they land here and they realize that they have to make that in order for them to survive, in order for them to make ends meet, like have food, have groceries, have a place to live, even in like a basement, like a one room basement, or like a condo, which is like an apartment here in Canada, you have to work two jobs. There's so many, almost every person I know, whether they're from abroad, whether they're immigrants, or whether they're first generation immigrants or second generation immigrants, they're working two jobs, unless they have their parents are supporting them. Two full-time jobs, in addition to any other work that they might find. And it's just, I mean, this is something that has been talked about a lot. I mean, the prices are so increased and they're so bad. But I mean, it was only when I actually came here and when I saw that this is so bad, like the rents, the property prices. I mean, you can forget that you can actually buy a house. That dream is out of the window unless you're, I don't know, like unless you already bought a house like 10, 20 years ago, and now the prices have increased, and then you can sell it and then you can buy more. Because quite a lot of people I know who actually came here 20, 30 years ago, they got into the business of property, and now they're filthy rich. But for any other person who was coming to Canada, and specifically this area, the property prices are just and the property prices and the rental prices and the cost of accommodation, and in turn with the cost of living, it gets just plain absurd. Like, unless you have a job, and I would say that unless you are earning, I think I probably think that if you're earning more, if you're earning 100K, then you're probably okay. If you want to enjoy decently, then I don't think anything less than 200K would suit you if you actually want to live in the GTA, in the Greater Toronto area. But everything from, like, you can actually see that the prices that you see here in Canada versus for the same item, the prices you see in the US, there's such a huge difference. And I think that has been covered by many people. You can actually see that on TikTok and Instagram as well. There are actually whole accounts that talk about how absurd the prices in Canada are. And I think that is one thing. I was watching one YouTube video and a documentary that said that 1 in 4 Canadians is actually considered poor. Like, they're actually on the poverty line, and that's like 25% of the Canadians. So yeah, despite everything, despite the fact that it's such a diverse country, despite the fact you can have the best experiences, despite the fact that it's so welcoming, I think there is a very heavy price that you have to pay in terms of money, in terms of monetary, in terms of finances, because I think you can get you can get almost, if I just talk about the quality of life, then you can probably get much better quality of life in Europe if you are not too worried about the actual experiences, and like the fact that there's not so much diversity, and the fact that they're not as welcoming as, for example, Canadians. then you can get a much better quality of life in Europe. I think US is probably the best here because the the level of because you can get a very, very high income in the US and your cost of living can be very, very low. And that provides one of the best benefits that you can have in terms of, like actually having or moving up, like, like actually having wealth. I think US is probably the only place where that can actually happen for any immigrant. I don't think Europe is that place. I don't think um, Canada is that place. I think US is probably the only place where you can actually be wealthy, and you can, like even if you come from a like a poor background or like a lower middle class background, you can actually reach a very, very high income background if you have the skills and if you have the capacity to work hard. I think the US probably rewards you the best because all the people I know that went to the US, my friends and everybody, they are actually working at doing really well. They had to work absolutely hard. They had to work their ass off, but they're getting the results. So I think I would just one more thing that I want to talk about is that like everybody talks about how friendly are Canadians. Like it's one of the stereotype that Canadians have, that they're really nice and they're very welcoming and they're very friendly. And hearing that is one thing, but actually witnessing that is a whole another thing because it's the friendliness and the welcomeness is not pretentious. Like people don't say hello or people don't say like thank you or welcome just because they have to or they need to. It's just genuinely something that comes from your heart, and you can actually see that uh, in Canada because the the people, even if you meet like native Canadians, they're you, you can ask for help. They will ask you if you need any help, and they will ask you if they need help as well. So because I remember yesterday I was at Costco and there was this lady, and I was looking at this one over the ear headphones, and she just came to me and she was just looking at other ones, and she was just asking me like, what would you recommend? Like, have you seen them, or what would you think about them? And she was saying that, oh, I have this, like. I want to be able to work because I have kids and I have like pets, and I want to be able to focus and concentrate, and how noise canceling they are. And it's just like it's not something pretentious, or it's like you don't have any fear of the stranger, or you don't have any fear of the foreigner, or you don't have any fear of the person who doesn't look like you. Because no matter where you go in Europe, I wouldn't say it's exactly the fear, but it's also there is this veil, this thing that is always between you and the other person. In some places it is more, like in Estonia. In some places it is quite less, for example in Germany or in Sweden, but it is always there. And in Canada I actually feel that it's not there, at least in this area, and at least in Toronto, that see that this veil is not there, that nobody really thinks about the color of your skin or where you're from or what's your accent like, because everybody has accent. It's just something about this place that makes you feel at home, that you are welcomed as if you are welcome at home. And I think this is one of the, despite all the problems, I mean, I understand that Canada has that there has been problems with infrastructure, and there has been problems, like there are too many people coming in a short span of time. But on the other hand, you should have a look at the fact that countries are actually struggling to have people like in their workforce. They like countries are like actually dying. South Korea, even Estonia, the birth rate population is declining. Germany is declining. Europe itself is going to decline in population, and they actually need people. They actually need workforce to help them continue their the economic engine that they have built. Because what happens if majority of the native populations becomes old and they go on pension and they don't have young people to support them or take their place? Like, what happens then? And I think countries, especially European countries, are starting to recognize that. And that is why we have seen this monumental change in the policies in Germany, that they have allowed dual citizenship. I never would have thought that would have been possible in my lifetime. They have allowed dual citizenship. They have drastically shortened the time for citizenship for foreigners, anywhere between 3 years to 5 years. And they have done many other policy changes to help foreign talent to be attracted here. But I mean, Canada does not have that problem. Canada has the opposite problem, that there are too many people, you need more jobs, and you need more infrastructure. I think those problems are solvable. Those problems can be solved. Those problems just need bright minds and thinking minds, and just commitment that, okay, we can do this, because this problem is not something that has not been solved. But on the other hand, if you are declining, that if you don't have people, if you are actually seeing that your population is declining and you don't have the workforce, and people don't want to come here, and people actually don't want to come to your country, then what will you do? Because that, I think, is a much worse problem than having overpopulation or lack of jobs, because those can be solved, those can be created. It takes time, it takes some serious commitment, but those can be solved. And on the other hand, I also think that that Canada, that I think one of the biggest strengths of the US is that it did not let jobs to be concentrated in specific hubs. Like there is the East Coast and there is the West Coast as well. But you can have like better tech jobs, that you can have like better manufacturing or these kind of jobs almost everywhere in the US. And I think Canada needs to do something like that as well. I know they're incentivizing that to to have better jobs in the other areas other than this, like dense urban centers, like for example Vancouver or Calgary or Toronto. So I think I think if the political will is there, and I think that if the commitment is there, then Canada definitely has all the resources that can make it a very, very prosperous country. I mean, look at the Olympics. I think Olympics are are such a big representation of how much immigrants actually contribute to a country. Nobody bats an eye if somebody who is a non-European actually is participating or winning gold for your country, which is majority ethnic Caucasian. Nobody, is bothered about that as well. But it's actually I think the strength of a country to see that so many people of different ethnicities from a country which might have one primary ethnicity are participating in the Olympics. And it's just, I think it really means that you are getting the best of everybody from the world, and then you're nurturing them, and then you're giving them the space to prosper, and those people in return are giving back to you, whether it is in the form of gold medals, or whether it is in form of taxes, or whether it is in form of innovation. So yeah, I think Canada has a lot of problems, but I think these problems are solvable. I think these problems have been solved before. All they need is just good political will and commitment. That's it. Oh, and finally, one of the final shocks that I've had in Canada is actually animals. You know, like in like urban animals, like by like in Europe, you don't see these animals. Like we have here skunks, we have here raccoons, and yesterday or day before yesterday, I actually saw a beaver, and it's just amazing for me to see those animals, because let's talk about raccoons, for example. I mean, Canada, or like Toronto, is like the raccoon capital of North America. That's what they say. And they have a huge problem with raccoons. And raccoons, if you don't know, are like these little furry creatures who go out at night, and they like to eat food. They're scavengers, and they're extremely smart, to the degree that it's actually scary. Recently, Toronto actually, because they had a huge problem with the raccoons opening up bins and then grabbing, leftover food, they actually had spent, I think, millions of Canadian dollars on this new design for a bin that you could turn and twist to open specifically, and they hailed it as raccoon, that no raccoon will be able to open that, regardless of that. And within like a couple of weeks, there were videos circulating online how raccoons were able to, open them quite easily. And that was very shocking for me. And I've actually seen raccoons in our backyard here as well. That was so interesting. Another animal that I'm really fascinated about is the skunk. And I think the skunk is like, it's like extremely lazy, but the worst part about the skunk is, of course, the smell. I know that wherever they pass from, the smell is so bad that it lingers there for quite some time. I know that if the skunk ever goes across in the yard and the window is open, even if slightly open, I actually wake up from sleep because it's so bad. I mean, skunks are the worst. I mean, their smell is just worse. I've never seen anything like that in Europe. I don't think they have skunks in Europe at all. And finally, the beaver. So one interesting thing about the raccoons is that they have fingers. They have actually fingers like humans, and they can actually use them to manipulate or eat or do everything. The final animal that I want to talk about is the beaver, and it's just so fascinating. Beaver is actually the national animal of Canada, and beaver is the only other animal other than humans that actively shape their environments. So beavers make dams, like they actually block the flow of water in order to capture their food. They actually build houses inside of water that are multi-storied. Like part of it is up the water, part of it is down. They have multiple rooms. They have families. Beavers are monogamous. They mate for life. So once they mate with like female beaver, they stay for life unless the male or the female dies. They have children. They have baby beavers, and then they actually live together with them for, I think, 2 or 3 years until they're of age. And from the first year, all of those actually start to help their parents in repairing and doing everything. Beavers actually make canals as well. So if they see that the water in the pond or wherever they are is lacking and there is a source of water nearby, they actually build a canal so that the water can come in. They actually chop down trees, branches, and then they move them and they use it to make dams. They have fingers and hands that they actually use to uh, pick up mud and then use it to make dams. I was fortunate enough to see them. If you haven't seen, then I welcome you to watch my Instagram because I posted some things there. But it's absolutely fascinating. I mean, the things or the animals that I see here in Canada and specifically North America. I know that Finland also has beavers because they were introduced from Canada, but I haven't heard about them or seen them in anywhere else except for Canada. Okay. I think these are all the things that I really, really wanted to talk about today. Thank you to everybody who watched this, and thank you to everybody who will watch this. And it's right now almost 1 p.m. here in Canada, and vacations are ending soon, and hopefully I will be back posting regular videos on YouTube about much more topics that I find interesting, like, for example, this. And yeah, thank you again for watching, and see you all soon again.